to the best of 3 podcast.
And the best final I have seen in a long time.
A long time. We might be talking. I don't want to be hyperbolic here because this is okay. It's level set. It's 9:30 p.m. Right? It's 9:30 p.m. This match, men's final. Carlos Alcaraz defeats Jannik Sinner, 5 sets, match breaker, 10-2 in the match tiebreaker, which does not tell the story, not even a little bit. I was happy that we put some time between us and this review.
Yeah.
But I don't
you let it marinate a little bit.
I don't know that I'm any better. Like I'm unwell. I'm different. I'm changed. I've seen things. But first and foremost, I'm Alvin. That's Torrey. Torrey, how are you doing right now?
I am better now, Alvin. I have to tell you, there's been about 5 French Opens that have completely blown me away. And I'm going back to when I was a kid. The 83 French is singed in my memory when Jannik Noah came through and just blew the brakes off of everybody in an epic run to the final. And I don't think the French had won it since like Rene Lacoste, like back in the day. There's a few others. This one is up there. This one might have just notched in at like 3 through 5, putting out some classic
3
matches.
through 5 of French Open finals, not even like.
And going with the Guga, with the Guga era, which were some phenomenal French Open finals. I'm going there with, this is past the Chang, Lindell final. Yep. This is past I'm to this one today. Wow. There has not been better ball striking, better countering, better back-to-back push-pull, momentum swings. Alvin, you heard it right here. I thought it was over at 5-3 in the 5th.
Oh, in the 5th.
In the 5th. Only then. Up until then, you didn't know.
Like Carlos up a break 5-3. Jannik would have been.
I thought it was.
Jannik would have been serving. Yeah.
And then Jannik stormed back. Alvin, you heard it right here. He was lucky to hold at 5-6 down. That was an absolute. I got no fingernails left, Alvin. I was completely. I bit off all my nails at that point. I'm like, oh, this is tight. This is dicey. And then he ran away with the next 7-8 points of the breaker. I'm like, whew. I think he thought, maybe like me, it was a 7-point breaker, not a match tie break. Because he steamrolled. I don't know where to start. I'm all over the place right now.
Okay, let's go.
You want to go set by set? Because that's the only way to describe it.
I'm tennis drunk right now. Like I'm drunk on tennis right now. I watched every ball of that match from coin toss to Carlos on the carpet at the end. I lived that match. It was
you probably aged.
I definitely did. It was a full on moment. Like I'll kind of give it the I got the midday cleared. The kids watched the first set with me. And then
Eileen even watched the match with me, Alvin, and and she was mad at me for calling her out the other day. So shout out to Eileen. She was right next to me, and it was an enjoyable experience, I have to say. Let me say, if I may, let me go back a step.
Yeah, go back a step.
Because I want to make a comment from the other day, post Sabalenka golf. And I feel like in some of the comments, after I've had a day to reflect on it, I want to make sure I make one point very clear.
Okay.
I agree that it was an ugly final in the sense that the errors were high. It wasn't as quality of tennis as I may have liked to have seen, especially in the second set. But make no mistake, it was ugly because Coco Gauff returned the darn ball so strong that. And I want to make sure that I make that point very clear, that it wasn't Coco's fault. More importantly, it was Coco's doing that made it ugly.
Right.
And I want to make sure full credit goes to Coco for countering the way she did. Did I think that Arena had some chances in the first? I do. Do I think that it was as clean as the Iga Swiatek semi? No. Do I feel that that had 100% to do with Coco Gauff? I 100% do. And I just want to make sure I make that point clear because I was not the Swiatek Sabalenka match mirrored a lot of this match today is why I want to make the segue. But the countering of Coco was the difference maker in that match. And make no mistake, as much as I love watching and I'm a big fan of Aryna Sabalenka, I'm just as big a fan of Coco Gauff. It was Coco who countered and made it uncomfortable for Aryna. And while she made some uncharacteristic errors, fair, she had help. And that help was in the form of one Coco Gauff making that point. In today's match, coming back, the tennis was high level, and save for about 4 or 5 games after the medical with the clay in the eye situation when he literally had his eye off the ball. That was the only time where the match got a little dicey. I just felt like it needed to be said. This was 5 hours of tennis of high quality, and somebody forgot to tell Jannik that he doesn't play well after 3.5 hours. And somebody forgot to tell Carlos that he was down 2-0. He never comes back after being down.
So I want to make sure that I clear that because I know I realized I guess yesterday that I misquoted the actual time. It wasn't 3:30. It was a 3:50. 3:50. So let's call it a 4 hour. He had never won a match that had gone past 4 hours. I'll go to that point in the match, and then we can go back to the beginning because at the 4 hour mark, Jannik was serving 5 all in the 4th set. Right? So, and his legs started to get to him a little bit.
They did. Carlos was gut checking him. He made more drop shots. He did more deep rip to dropper. And I don't think he connected on a great drop shot combo in the first 2 sets.
Not until like fourth, fifth. Yeah, until he actually get loose.
Right. It was. I don't think he did much in the third, and he literally had to play knockdown, drag out tennis in the third. And the fourth, I think he realized Jannik was just a little gassed, and he hit, I don't know, 9 that I counted droppers and beautiful droppers at that, just to gut check him. I don't think Jannik touched the first 2 or 3 when he finally hit a dropper. He hit a horrible dropper or 2 in middle way through the second. It was horrible. But to your point, I felt that this match was largely in control by Jannik's center. And Carlos played a phenomenal third set.
Sure, yeah.
I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, when I say phenomenal, I mean, Alvin, he reached back and grabbed momentum. I mean, he literally snatched victory from the jaws of defeat there. I mean, it was going down. It was going down.
So strong. we're gonna I guess everyone has made the point. Everyone will make the point. Carlos serving 3-5, love 40. Right? And you kind of walk through that point in the 4th set, sorry. You kind of walk through that point and you go, that was actually just a good service exhibition at that point. He got himself out of it. Sure. Right?
Yep.
Once we got to 4-5, or should I say 5-4, and Jannik is serving for the set, I think that's when the match turned into something spectacular. Yep. Yeah, because Jannik didn't have a match point. Like he didn't after that. He wasn't looking at one. Carlos, I think, broke him after 40-15. Like 9 out of 10 points won there, and then just kind of took it on into the tiebreaker. But let's go back to the beginning of the match. Match starts. First point was they were both on it.
Epic.
Yeah, ready to go.
Yep. Game was what 10, 12 minutes.
12 minute first game. Carlos had 3 breakpoint chances in that game. And so when Carlos has 3 breakpoint chances in a game, first game, at that point I go, okay, he's here. He's locked in. Again, multiple breakpoint chances in the next game that he served.
Yep.
And then
and he held. I mean,
he held
all the way. Just saying.
Yeah, and then he finally got the break to go up 3-2. And then Jannik boomerang break right back 3-all, right? So and I don't intend to I honestly started taking notes during this match, and then after the first set,
And
I
then
was
the
like,
tennis got
I
good.
just got to stop. I got nothing. Yeah.
Just watch it and enjoy it. I agree with you. You know what it really showed me, Alvin, and I think as we step back from it, right? You know, what's the old expression? The sum was greater than the parts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This match was better than any stat
Right.
can give you.
Yeah.
There's the stats, there's the tactics, right? And then there was just the magic of two players gutting it out, never wanting to concede. That's what I saw in this match, that the clay brings out of two very worthy, let's face it, champions. They're both Grand Slam champions, and they're 1 or 2 in the world for a reason. I saw a Carlos Alcaraz that, for all intents and purposes, should have lost this match.
Sure.
The way that he had stubbed his toe in the second, really had lost the ability. You mentioned the break points, but Jannik didn't give an inch. I mean, Jannik was not playing bad tennis. Then he went through a span of maybe 4 or 5 games. Alvin, he shanked probably 4 or 5 forehands. He missed some balls uncharacteristically poorly. He went down pretty bad in the second, and then even still, Alvin came back to make it close in the second set. Right?
He was down 3-0, came back, swung it all the way back.
Right. I want to say he got back. It wasn't back to 4 all of them. It was 5-5. So I said to say, you don't do that down a set, and you played horrible, and finally will yourself back through to a guy who's not giving you anything. Right. There was a weird stat that was something it went something like this in the middle of the first set, maybe middle of the second set, maybe, where it was like, I want to say, and it was weird. Jannik was serving somewhere in the neighborhood of 70%, give or take. But his first serve points won was lower than his serve percentage. And then on the flip side, I want to say Carlos had I don't know, he claimed it was low, but it was actually like 57%, almost 6%. But his first serve points won were really high. It was almost an alter. It was a flip of what the other one was. It just, he wasn't making enough of them and had a bunch of loose points. Carlos Alcaraz has the ability to counter Jannik's shot like nobody else in the world.
So let's get into that part right there, because I think you can throw all the stats out, and I think there's going to be because
they went both ways.
The natural inclination is like, okay, well, what does Jannik Sinner need to do to overcome Carlos Alcaraz? Like that, I think that's dumb. That match could have been a coin toss, right? That thing was on the rails until we got to the tiebreaker in the
literally many different times.
Yeah. So I don't think there's anything macro to take away from either player has to make a change. I think you could say Carlos needs to do a little better job of being ready for it from the start. Maybe be a little more efficient.
But isn't that kind of how it plays?
Right? Yeah.
I mean, to have him come in locked in, he's not yet. And to be honest, that's what I love about him. He can be a little loose. He is a little. He's kind of a big kid. He's out there freewheeling and feeling it out. He's talking about it. He was pissed off. He was emotional. He was talking to his box.
But never negative. Negative. Like he never gave off the feeling of I don't have it today. I can't win this match. Even when he was down, 2-0,
two
down
sets.
A break, right? He was. Right. He always seemed like he was there. But I mean, he just his match against Musetti loses the first set, right? Did he lose the first set against Ben as well? Or did he Ben in straight?
I think so.
Yeah.
Breaker, I thought.
Maybe he won the breaker. I don't really remember. It doesn't matter. But you even go back to last year, got down 2-1 against Zverev in the final. This happens to him. Hell, even Novak tagged him 6-0 in the first set of the Wimbledon final 2 years ago. So, but he even said as much in one of his press conferences. Someone's like, "Do you worry about giving up sets to players that you should maybe be handling?" He's like, "No, I don't care. I don't care. It's fine. Right. Not a worry."
Right.
Jannik is the machine. And Carlos is like, I'll meet you there. I'll get there how I get there, and then we can take care of it. But
he won the first set in the breaker.
He won the first set in the breaker. Okay. All right.
10-8.
Oh, there you go. Very close enough.
And then he lost the third 6-4. That's what it was.
So I the things that from a tactical standpoint. I mean, this is actually from a technical standpoint. The one thing I can discern from when I watch these two play is that everything that Jannik can do to other players, no one can do it back to him per se. Carlos makes him uniquely therefore Carlos is uniquely positioned or skilled enough to make Jannik uncomfortable. He can do things, he can hit the ball hard enough and vary the level of ball height. Like that's
ball
the
height and width.
Yes. Sometimes with both.
Right.
Yeah. So like that's like the, Jannik likes to go big, dominate the middle of the court, and just lean on people. He's like a friggin' boa constrictor, right? But Carlos has him hitting these hitch kick backhands, and it's like he doesn't have to hit him against anyone else.
He did hit a few against Novak.
Okay, Novak's not a real person, but
Novak tried the same kind of deal. But on the hitch kick, what Carlos finally did in the fourth, a little bit in the third, he took him deep wide on the hitch kick, knowing that his momentum was, as I'm leaning into the camera, was leaning so far forward that he was now behind, going backwards for the forehand.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a tactic I hadn't seen before. I also thought that he went so far wide on the serve, too wide. I thought that hurt his first serve percentage because he knew that was his honey hole over there. But that wasn't the case in the first two. Carlos had that serve. Jannik had that serve down. Like, okay, buddy, I practiced that one. I'm good. But he started going back behind him in the rallies off the good cross. He went back wide cross. One rally, he went back behind him 3 times, Alvin. Went back behind him 3 times and broke his ankles in that forehand corner with that little hard angle, that little buggy hard angle he hits. And I'm going to tell you, it's as if, and we mentioned this the other day, tennis is the better for this matchup because each player is going to continue to push the other player up a notch. They countered each other's tactics, Alvin, no fewer than 5 times in that match, either one of them taking the play. Jannik came to net more in this match than I've seen him come forward ever. Carlos, who's usually coming forward, came in quite a bit, but the dropper wasn't working early, so that was one of his go-to plays. It did, in fact, come back around and worked a lot in late in the third and obviously a lot in the fourth. But even then, I felt like I knew at some point Jannik's legs would go. I just felt like at some point he's going to get gassed and he's just going to miss more serves and Carlos was going to start hitting balls. Carlos started pulling the backhand deuce inside in, as you call it, the skinny cross, up the line. And guess what? Jannik countered with the inside-out backhand, one of my favorite returns on the deuce, the Andy Murray special. He took that ball wide on Carlos. The one ball Carlos wasn't expecting was the going wide to his forehand off the deuce court return on his kick. So these guys continue to match each other so well. It was so much just a matchup thing that, I mean, I think we'll be talking about this match or watching, I'm going to say watching the meat of this, getting tidbits from this match for a long time. And this was perhaps the greatest display of ball striking, of tactics continuing to be matched up against one another. And 5 hours of tennis, Alvin. I mean, it was some pretty stellar back and forth. I don't, words fail to fully put this into terms of how great and epic it was. It was a true instant classic, and I hate instant classics. I feel we give too much credit to
but this one deserves it.
We're not giving too much credit to this one. This was a classic.
I almost feel like, I was almost thinking like maybe we should just wait until tomorrow morning because I honestly don't have a ton of really descriptive words. I think the best way to view this match is to kind of think about it through the lens of like, where does this match actually sit in the pantheon of like great matches? Like I will be full disclosure. I do not work. We are not media people, right? We are tennis practitioners. We are tennis fans, right? We do this.
Tennis purists.
Oh, we are purists. Yeah. And this podcast is a great place to just speak on the things that we feel about tennis. And I will say, as a fan, I came up as a Fed guy. I was a Pete guy and then a Fed guy. And when Fed retired, I was like, you know what? I had lived and died many lives watching Fed in finals, like cardiac arrest. I didn't enjoy it towards the back end. And when he finally retired, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna fan anymore. Like I'm done. It's not good for me. I found myself like watching tennis more freely. And then here comes Carlos Alcaraz, and I'm like, what is this thing? And I caught him in Rio 2019, I think was the first time I saw him, and I was like, this kid is different. So full disclosure, I am a Carlos Alcaraz fan. You hear it in the way that I talk about him. I like it's a real thing. I will disclosure statement, right? But this match felt like full vindication for that nonsense 2019 Wimbledon. Djokovic overfed when Fed had double match point. Like now I feel, me as a tennis fan, I feel like I've been made whole now. Yes. Yes. The heavens stole one from me then, and they gave me one back today.
Wow, that's big. That's deep.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
I have been in a big three slump. It feels like it's confessional at some, whatever, AA meeting or whatever, hi, my name is Torrey, hi Torrey, and I am suffering from the big three, you know what I mean? And I have, due to my age and what have you, I remember, early days, the Arthur Ashe days. I remember the early Mack and Borg days. I remember Wilander coming on the scene and stealing everybody's thunder, and really kind of bringing in this weird level of consistent, on the rise, quite frankly, boring tennis. Loved it when Pete came on the scene because we finally had a big server back in the mix. Loved it when Becker stormed his two back-to-back 18 and 19 or 17, 18, however old he was, back-to-back Wimbies. It was exciting. Agassi, denim shorts, checkerboard, highlighter. I mean, highlighter, biker shorts underneath. I mean, I span the gamut. But that's when Pete and Andre brought the rivalry home to me. At that point, I finally understood, and you looked forward to. And quite frankly, they hung tennis up to this level of greatness. And the guys that pushed them, who were also pretty
the
good,
Rafters,
made the path there seem arduous. It just so happened at the same time, one Chicago Bulls was going through the same exact ascendancy through the basketball, finally dispatching the Lakers and the Celtics and the Detroit Pistons and such. And so we're in this mode where sports is starting to get very, very good and deep. It was no small feat for the Bulls to get past the Cavs, with Mark Price and my
Larry Nance, Craig Elo, Brad
Larry
Doherty,
Ron Harper.
Ron Harper,
right?
pre-bowl.
So those solid teams, right? Nor was it that easy, for the how many finals did in the semis did the Lakers play the Jazz, you know what I mean, in some epic 6 and 7 series, with Karl Malone and Stockton. So I say it to say it was starting to get really good, Alvin, and I felt like the rivalry started to define sports a little bit because they kept pushing each other. Teams were trading to get players that could get them through the playoffs against that team. Tennis was happening with that, but at a one-on-one level. Players were getting a skill or two or a coach or a team to match that player on that surface. And you weren't good enough until you had that level. And all that to say, then, of course, 03 happens, and Fed knocks off Pete, the reigning grass court champion, and becomes the grass court icon himself. And I think it was in 02. I think
that might have been that. Yeah, that might have been. He won it in.
I think it was 02. I think he won it in 3.
Or 3 or 4.
But I know in 04 he put tennis on lockdown. I got to look it up. But one of those years, I remember I was working with Vahaley at the time, and I asked Vahaley a random question. Shout out to Brian if you're watching this. You remember this conversation. I asked him this random question: who surprised you or who impressed you? And he says to me, and Brian's probably got the best backhand that I've ever seen on the other side of my net, and obviously was NCAA finalist, and at that point he was on his way to being top 50 in the world. And he says, there's this guy from Swiss, this guy Federer. This guy is going to be great. Yeah. He hits the ball as clean as anybody, but he doesn't slice the back and he rips over everything. He just hits the ball cleaner and bigger than anybody I've ever seen. And the way he moves, he's on grass. He says it was ridiculous. He's like, the guy's like a ballerina on the court. And I'm like, huh. Roger Federer, you say? Federer, I'm messing his name up. He goes, oh. He's like, yeah. He says, watch out for this guy. Everybody's talking about him. Like he's impressing the other pros. Like, you just watch this guy like, whoa, he's on a different level. He says it to me in 02, Alvin. This is, before he's done anything. I want to say the next year he beat Pete, or maybe that year he beat Pete.
He beat Pete in 01, loses in the first round in 02, and then wins it 03 for the first time.
There it is.
And 5 times in a row.
And I think it won June women, if I'm not mistaken.
He did.
98 or 97, something like that, right? So I did research on the guy. So now I'm looking for this guy. Sure enough, now the world now knows who Roger is. But this is going back, and it might have been 01 when Brian said this to me. Long story. So I'm now going to see that rivalry now being replaced. And of course, Nadal spent, it took, let's be honest, Alvin, it took about 6-7 years for the Nadal-Fed rivalry to really catch up. It was almost a certain, you knew Nadal had him on clay, but Fed was good everywhere else, right? Until about 07, 08. Then, of course, Novak. I'm saying all this to tell you, this has been 30 years in the making that we have had some phenomenal rivalries. And in the last 4 or 5 years, because of the big three, we have missed some other rivalries because they've been so dominant. There hasn't been any. Hasn't it been? Isn't Team and Medi the only two guys that have won? Well, obviously you got to keep in mind, Wawrinka and Murray. You can't. I'm not mentioning those guys. Yeah,
I think the question you're asking is like, has any like Team Medi were the only two players born in the 90s to win a Grand Slam. Let's put it that way. Yes.
Right. So they're 90s.
The whole decade of people born in the 1990s. The whole decade.
So my point being, right, you're putting Murray and Wawrinka in.
They're born. They're 80s babies. Yeah.
Hence my point. So you're talking about a whole decade demolished. So now we're in the 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's no slight to the guys in the 90s. These guys are good players. It's just that's how good those guys were. And now, as you say, you're tennis drunk. We were all a little tennis drunk from that whole 20 years. And now these two have come in and shown us, oh, by the way, if you haven't watched tennis in a while, you might want to tune in next time.
Yeah.
We got a new brand of tennis going on that you might just, if you're a true tennis fan, you might just want to tune in. And
go back.
I'm excited for what I'm seeing going forward because this is like the latest.
Not even a true tennis fan. When Carlos Alcaraz wins the U.S. Open in 2022, right? Forget he beats Sinner in the might have been the quarters. He beats Tsitsipas in the round of 16, beats Sinner in the quarters. I think I've got that year right. And then beats Francis and then wins the tournament, right? Like that match against Sinner, 5 hours, 15 minutes, sliding around. They're both just getting after it. And people are non-tennis fans are like, yo, who's this Alcaraz guy? Right. He's like he's one of those rare entities that brings people to tennis. He brings people to tennis. Like at some point today, I had to put my phone away. Like I'm like, I can't keep taking text messages. I'm in this match. I can't talk to you people.
Right.
I'm busy right now because Carlos Alcaraz gets people off the streets paying attention to tennis. And the fact that he has a foil. Like I remember when Fed and Nadal kind of like when they both faded and Novak was the one like standing around by himself, like he's gonna rack up Grand Slams. There's no one to stop him. And it almost didn't seem right. It's like no one should go unopposed.
Right. Like he came in at the perfect time, like he inserted himself in the birth canal just right.
Yeah. I mean,
What did he do?
Fed had the the open run in the beginning. Nadal thwarted him, like got in there, and then Djokovic got in there, and then all three, and then Fed out. Nadal fades. Djokovic standing by himself, and it's like no, you can't.
That you thought for the foreseeable next 5 years,
and like tennis karma doesn't work that way. Like there needs to be balance in our universe, and I mean, bringing it back to Carlos, even Carlos said like I'm not gonna keep beating him. I'm gonna have to get better. I'm gonna have to make improvements because he will too. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's 5 in a row right now. But like, we were almost at. I mean, we were right there. We were right there.
Several different
Yeah,
times.
Houdini, Carlos Houdini Alcaraz.
100%. Take me. This will be kind of an off the wall.
Yeah,
question.
we're in an off the wall space. I got nothing but.
Yeah.
I'm hungover now. I'm tennis hungover.
What other match made you feel like this in recent memory?
Recent memory.
Because I'm having trouble thinking of one.
No.
Out of the big three.
I'll say
10 years.
I'll say recently. Thankfully, this year's Women's Australian Open final, Madison versus Arena I cried at the end of that one. That one moved me.
Okay.
Exciting. That was fantastic. That was a perfect final. It was a perfect final. Prior to that, final.
Yeah.
I mean, 2017 Roger against Nadal Australian Open.
Right. Did that when he came back and beat him in the fifth?
I also cried in that one.
Yeah. That was. I haven't in recent memory. I'm saying that was the last one. That
2019 Wimbledon when Fed was up 40-15 double match point against Novak. That one was.
Yeah, that hurt though. That one I'm still.
Yeah, that was a tough one. That was a tough one.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're spotty. You know, all three of those matches I think included. There was a Australian Open where Nadal came back from down, I think 2 sets to love to beat Medi. That might have been 2019 Australian Open, maybe 2020. I don't remember which when that was. So there's a few, right? But
I think the reason I asked the question, and you'll see where I'm going with this, it's pretty cool that a match this recent pushes some of your favorite old school 5-set knockdown dragouts out of the way to make room for it.
Yeah.
I can remember some great matches, some great games, some great game sevens in basketball, some great game sevens in World Series, and so on and so on. And you're like, man, I was there when such and such and such and such happened, and what have you. And to watch this match really unfold, and quite frankly, with all of the cardiac moments that it had, the dips, the first set, the whole eye situation, he went south for a little bit, went on as some would say, a walkabout for about 4 or 5 games, and all of that. When you thought you knew who had momentum, it flipped, right? Just when you thought Sinner was going to take this match in straights, you were in for a rude awakening. Just when you thought Alcaraz had him down, Sinner came back with some of the best tennis he's played in the whole tournament. I mean, it was, and it kept going. And at 7-0, I was a little worried, like, oh, this has happened before.
Yeah. I'm like,
oh, no,
match breakers are so long. They're so long.
I'm like, wait, is this a 10-point? Oh, and then he wins the next one. I'm like, oh God. And then I'm like, no, oh, I can't take it anymore. You know what I mean? And so I was thankful that he my heart was thankful that he.
I mean, it was when I watch matches like this, or when I think about what I want as a sports fan. Actually, let me give you another comparison. 2016 NBA Finals Game 7, Cavs versus Warriors. The LeBron chase down block, the Kyrie step back 3.
Right.
That one felt like this one. But the quality wasn't as good. Like this, I think the thing that's going to go down in history about this match is that the quality never, like it had a little bit of a shaky start, but once we got. Like just that both players were facing so many break points early, like they weren't. Neither was serving well.
They're both returning well.
Right. I guess that's the nuance part of it.
I would say, mind you, missed a few first.
Yeah.
And misfired points here. But Alvin, first game, that first point was solid. The first game took 12 minutes. Neither person was given an inch, and while they weren't first game, Alvin, most times. In slams of old, that's an ace, a service winner, a couple of step ups, and before you know it, it's routine. You're changing ends within before the
Yeah.
commercial break. You know what I mean? And they're trying to show stats and show last year's highlights. You know what I mean? This one, you were glued. If you didn't have everything ready to go by the first point, you had to just settle in. You missed that. You might have to go ahead and go get my beer at the end of the first. So it was when that darn eye thing, I finally got to get something to eat. I was like, oh, this is my chance.
I missed lunch today. I didn't eat lunch today. It didn't happen.
Oh my God. It was that back and forth and that contested for that long. And so I hear you on it wasn't as sharp per se, but it wasn't for lack of effort and lack of tug of war on the other side. It was simply that the other person wasn't converting as much. And then of course, in that delay, it hurt Alcaraz.
Yeah.
Obviously, probably. And who knows? Something may have been his eye to lose that 4-5 game. That may have been why he had to take it. But all that to say, it was pretty good quality all the way through. I have not seen, save for those 3 or 4 games in the second, and the last game of the first, there was not many bad points.
The fourth, fifth set, I don't.
Many.
The quality was insane.
I would say third through the fifth. I mean, for me, just you knew Alcaraz was going to come back at some point, and not have to be 2 sets down. He had to come back in the third. But that third set, Alvin, was contested, man. I mean, there was still a chance for Jannik to win that third. I mean, in that breaker, that was a very, very tough match. And even at that point, he finally won that, and then he didn't fade. He didn't fade. Fourth.
Well,
I mean,
he faded. I mean, just at it was the beginning of the fifth. The beginning of the fifth.
In the fourth, he gassed him enough with the droppers. Yeah. And I thought early in the fifth, he finally showed a little bit of physical deterioration.
Yeah. And it was at the point where first game gas coming off the fourth set. So first game of the fifth set.
Right.
Lull in the match, quick break. Right. That was the kind of kicker, and that let Carlos get up. Or was it the second game that he broke him? I don't remember. Whatever. Carlos got up that early break, right? And that was enough to just keep himself in the lead, on the scoreboard in the lead, with a little bit of room to relax a little bit and play a little freely. Because similar to his match against Musetti in the first set, Carlos spent a lot of time serving second in this match, which when you're playing against someone who can serve, who's serving so well, it puts a lot of pressure on you, right, to hold serve.
To do it all the time.
And Carlos is not a big server, right? He doesn't crank up the aces or anything. I think they were kind of neck and neck on aces there. And, but that's for someone who doesn't always dial in, plays a little bit more, a little looser. That's tough. So I thought in the beginning of this match, it'd have been nice for him to get one of those early breaks, give himself a little bit of space. But then, as soon as he got it,
the first game,
exactly,
would have been
nice.
Yeah.
Would have been nice. But getting that early break in the fifth, it was I remember Andy Roddick once saying men on the ATP tour expect to hold roughly 80% of the time, right? That's 4 out of 5-ish service games. And so I was thinking, all right, he got that break early. He's not just going to walk this out. He's not Pete, right? He's not I'm taking my break and you're done kind of situation. I'm this is going to get nasty somewhere.
He doesn't possess the serve accuracy or MPH to, or game style, let's be honest, to go for that. He's not a gunslinger like that he's just going to go flat down the tee twice, catch the I don't know, whatever that surface is, not the chalk, but whatever that white is of the French Open lines, he's not going to catch that twice in a row, back to back, and be staring down the barrel of 30 love, after 2 serves. That's just not how his game is built, and he's not that level of a server. Neither was Nadal, neither was Djokovic. To be honest with you, only Pete was. Roger could dial up an ace when he needed one. But again, that's the big server mentality, isn't it? And it's also why they don't play long.
Exactly.
There's so much method. I attest to that game style. So I think what was so impressive to me was the countering of each other's counter, that you kept seeing. And you went line at your own peril. You know what I mean? At your own risk, because you may have gotten the ball back behind you. You may have gotten got it completely ricocheted back cross court. But yet, if you didn't go line, you were screwed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was one of those. You didn't know who had the tactical advantage most of the time. It was just, God, Alvin, just some good tennis, man. And I wanted to just make that point that it was probably the best X's and O's we've seen. Both players had to come forward. Both players had to go for it. Both players, you can't say so-and-so didn't play well. They both played well.
They both played well.
You know what I mean? You can't say if so-and-so was dinged up. They were both healthy. You can't say, it was that one situation. No, nothing. It was evenly called. It was evenly played. The conditions were pretty good. Maybe breezy. A lot breezy yesterday.
Yeah.
But it was almost ideal. Roof was open. There was nothing but the tennis to decide. And the only thing I'm envious of is those people that had a front row
Yeah.
seat, to be able to watch it there. And there's many a match, Alvin, where many a basketball game, many a football game that I am happy to watch it from the comfort of my home.
Absolutely. It's the best vantage point.
Right. And that match there, I would have been like, you know what? That seat there was worth every cent paid, because you got front row at, shout out to Spike, fellow, you being courtside. They were in for a treat today, and whoever was lucky enough to be courtside today saw an absolute classic.
Well, they were,
and you're the luckier.
They were a part of it. Like, they made it.
Oh,
everyone was a part of it, and like that was the part that I was envious of. Like, to be there is not necessarily. It's not more comfortable. Right, my couch is more comfortable.
Right.
The ability to walk to the bathroom whenever I want to and
right.
grab a snack.
You about my 5 hour.
Yeah, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that.
Man.
But to be a part of,
your butt's feeling it, your stomach's feeling it. I mean, you're like, man, can I get a cold beer up in here and a sandwich?
Yeah, but to be a part of it, like everyone there is forever intertwined, and that match will live in their memories for as long as they may watch tennis. It was awesome. It was awesome for tennis. It was awesome for us. Like, you think about Grand Slam finals, past, the Australian Open final was a bit of a dud on the men's side, right? Zverev versus Sinner. The U.S. Open final was even worse. Zverev versus Fritz. Hell, even the Wimbledon final, like Carlos beat Novak in straights, right? French Open final last year was
didn't get excited until the third.
Yeah.
It kind of, it went.
It was in straights, yeah.
But Novak was up a bit in the third, right? And then Carlos stormed back and beat him. Was maybe a breaker and I think
it was breaker in third.
But no, you're right. And you could tell Novak.
Sure, yeah, one leg.
Like that match. You're absolutely right. And Alvin, I gotta say, when these kind of matches happen, it vitalizes your passion, the possibility of what's possible just exponentially grows. And then I feel like the rest of the tour is left to kind of fill in the gaps in between. The match was such an outlier on quality per ball, per game, per set, obviously in the final, that the rest of the league, the rest of the ATP tour needs to, they will, and because they're all tennis fans like we are. They're going to be like, dude, you got to be kidding. You got to be kidding. Did you see that? And everybody's going to come out. I'm excited for Wimbledon because everybody's going to come out banging. They're going to be like,
you know what? I don't think the way that the other players talk about Carlos, and specifically how they talk about Sinner right now, they don't feel like they're in the same stratosphere. They don't feel like they actually are playing the same sport that these two are playing. I think it's Zverev is a little like, he has enough like irrational confidence to say he feels like he belongs there, but then like the results will show that he does not, right? And everyone else thinks he does not as either. Novak does, but I mean, we saw what happened 2 days ago, right? Novak brought it and he got no sets, right? So I think it's maybe it's one of the younger ones who are just They don't know any better. And I'm looking at the Arthur Fils, and I'm looking at the the Mensix if he gets his fitness. Once he gets his fitness together, he will. I know he will. He's young.
Sure.
The Yao Fonsecas, like those guys who are like, I want to be in one of those matches with one of these guys.
Yeah. Do you think we are 6 months to 18 months from having a complete changing of the guard? Like, in other words, and this is completely hypothetical and a bit
let's go
tangent. 6 months from now,
end of the year,
these two need to go on the tear they're going on to, right? And they could, let's just face it, they could be 1 and 2 in the final for the next 4 slams. I'm gonna postulate that because I think that's a very real possibility. Mm-hmm. They're on a rocket ship of tennis right now. They're just taking the level to another level. And what I meant by the other guys filling the gap is just that their level's going to have to raise to even stay in the same level of play. These guys got better today by pushing the boundaries of what's possible. So, with that said, the 3 through 8 have got work to do, which means the 9 through 16 have got double the work to do just to not get blitzkrieg by these guys from what they've been through, what they've seen. Now, so I'll go back to my 6 months from now. 6 months from now, maybe sooner. Let's just say, for speculation, Novak retires.
Sure.
Let's just say 6 months from now, Zverev calls it a day. Like game is. I'll put it out there. It may be a year and 6 months, but I'm just saying he's clearly going to be a non-entity of the
non-threat
finals
to win a major.
If these two go, and I'm going to give him 2 years, but let's just say 6 months from now he's out of the top 5.
That's highly possible. Yeah.
Right. Let's just say, and again, no shade on Musetti, but let's just say he withdraws from another or doesn't make another semi. You've got a vacuum. Who fills? Taylor Fritz has still not been back 100% since Miami. He was the other one that's there. Casper Ruud is great on clay. It's now officially clay court season is over. You see what I'm getting? Yeah. Holger has shown that he has flashes of brilliance, but not really much else. You've got Ben can be Ben, which is both great on a given day and still has yet to truly assert himself as a top 4 player, although I think he's going to continue to get better. I'm not so sure he's got number 3 in the world game consistency on all surfaces and the full on, and I can counter his best is phenomenal. His countering of the best is very average. So, who are the next 3 through 6-ish, 3 through 7, if you will, that you see? There's my long-winded.
I want to make sure that I'm answering the question you're actually getting at. You're not asking who is going to be ranked 3 through
100%, because numerically possible was your whole diatribe on Lorenzo, and I had no problem with Lorenzo being mathematically 6th in the world. I have a problem with his career situation, mind you, 2 semis, I got you, but I mean who can threaten to beat one of these 2 guys.
I get you. So I'll even take out the 6 months from now. Let's just say it's pre-Australian Open, and we're talking about looking at our 2026. Like, what are we excited to see? Who's coming? Right. Who has a chance? And I'll start to draw. I love to do a prototype, a profile here. There are 2 things, probably 3 things that a player would need to contend with these guys.
Okay.
There's a certain amount of power that you need to be able to hit the ball. Like, you need to be able to hit that skinny cross court backhand down the line for a winner from outside the doubles out.
Right.
That is a
routine.
Yeah, that's a thing. 2, got to be able to move. And Federer once said it best: the best movers are the best tennis players. Right? That was. If you didn't believe it when he said it, look at what we watched today. Right? Okay.
That's okay. I'll live
right.
To hear.
Don't make me raise my voice.
Right.
And the third one is a little bit of that's the real je ne sais quoi. It's I don't play by these rules. These tennis rules don't matter to me. I'm going to do whatever I want. And like you could see the thing that Carlos does that Jannik doesn't get a chance to see against anyone else is that he'll just try whatever. It's like we're in a cross court rally. I'm in position to hit another cross court ball. I'm not going to. I'm going down the line because we're not staying here, right? We're doing this now.
You don't limit what I do.
Yes, I do what I want.
I limit what I
do. What I want. Yeah, and so I think when you look at those three things, like a little bit of pop, a lot of movement, a healthy dose of crazy, right? I think you start to look at everyone. No one above the age of 22. Do I consider? No. I am.
That's a big statement, and I don't agree with you.
It's early days, but I think it's. I'm looking dead at Fonseca. Like he's got the three things now. Well, whether or not he gets there,
still this incubate a little bit. But you're absolutely right. Or someone like
him. Or someone like him. Like
I don't think like you said, Mensic's not.
Mensik doesn't move as well. But his serve is bigger. He has his serve is bigger. He has a unique.
To your point, it's gonna be a morph of something.
You got to be able to hurt. You got to be able to move, and you got to be a little bit crazy.
I was going through the high performance coaching thing with Nick Saviano, and shout out to Nick if you're listening. We were talking about this, and I thought I hit on something. I'm no genius, but it was just made common sense to me. We were talking about developing a player, and he had pulled a handful of us aside, and we were talking about development in general. And he went on who he had worked with and developed, and obviously he was a very accomplished coach. And he started talking about how the player that you're working with now will be a finished product in 10 years. And you need to look forward 10 years and form a game that will be relevant in 10. In other words, if you coach him like it is now, in 5 years, when that player's halfway through, that game's already been solved, dispatched, done, recycled. You need to have today's player with tomorrow's modifications / weapons and upgrades, right? I had always looked at it that way. And so when he was going in the room, what would the next player have? What do you think about it? He was just kind of talking shop, talking tennis, very ethereal and very, very amoebus, right? And I said the next top player, this is whatever. I'm trying to think of it might have been 99, might have been around that time, 99, give or take. I said the next top player is going to be one of two players. It's going to be Pete with the backhand, or it's going to be Andre with the bigger serve, right? It was just common sense to me. The player was going to be that clean off and have a serve like Pete, because that game was obviously very, very, very viable. The guy just needed to have a backhand. Mm-hmm. Or Andre with the better serve. He already had phenomenal turns, hit the ball clean everywhere, and could do anything else with the ball, but his serve just wasn't as big. So if I had Andre with a serve,
like 5'10". Like, I mean, what do you expect from him?
You see what I'm saying? Right. He was going to need a little bigger, a little better pop off the serve, and do everything else as well as Andre did. We have ended up seeing. I didn't see the lefty, the new improved Marcelo.
Right.
Rios,
that was the Nadal of things. Was
and Nadal.
Yeah.
Right. No one could have seen that because that player wasn't there at the time. Right. And as good as Marcelo, and I was there when Marcelo came through. He wasn't there long enough.
More like a Mooster, maybe. No, nothing. No.
Mooster with a better backhand, 100%. Right. You get the idea. And even Mooster was a 20 or so player in the world that got to number one with a phenomenal clay court run that you almost thought he was a red herring. You didn't even think that was a clay court specialist on steroids, quote unquote, on a run. You didn't necessarily see that level was going to be phenomenal as it was with 22 slams later with Rafa Nadal. That said, I was coaching that style then. What you're talking about now, to me, and I got to be honest, as a coach, Alvin, both of these guys return pretty well.
Yeah.
They don't serve terrible, but you're going to have a big serve is the only thing I can think.
Yeah.
this player can have to add. It's the only thing both these two guys miss. But how many times is a big server? How many times are they limited by that big serve because they can't get in rallies long enough to get that rally tough without it? They're going to almost grow late in life, get to be. And Pesci Pericard is like me when I was coming up. He will never be great at long rallies because for too long he's been able to pop the 140 no problem.
Right.
I was serving 130 back in the day. He's 140. He's obviously he's a lot younger. I say it to say what makes him great is what hurts him long term. He's never had to grind, nor should he have to. He's
so
6'8".
I think that's the when you start looking at that specific thing, you start to look at center and you go, hey man, he's damn near perfect. He's damn near perfect except for the je ne sais quoi, like the little sprinkle of like when they got into the latter ends of that fourth set, beginning of the fifth set, you could see Carlos starting to smile. He looked light. He's like, you haven't been here before. Like when the chips are down, we're in this place. Because every time Sinner wins a Grand Slam, he's just dog walking people, right? Like this, he's routining chumps, more or less. Like, sorry, they're not chumps. Let me shut up. I am no ATP player, but
he makes them look like chumps. Unfortunately,
guys who are below the line of potentially contending with him and Carlos. Yeah. So, but then you look at Carlos, and you could say, well, Carlos is 6 foot tall, right? So he doesn't have that serve. Or Jannik does. Jannik has turned his serve into a legit weapon. He double faulted 0 double faults today in the final, 2 in the tournament. Like, that's what are we talking about? Like that's broken tennis. That's not real. So I think Sinner's biggest issue is Carlos is crazy. Like he does not subscribe to tennis the way that everyone else does. Right. So it's like Sinner is a classically trained, highly tuned boxer, right?
Human.
And then Carlos is like, no, we're gonna street fight. We're not doing what you want to do. It's not gonna be pretty. We're gonna
grab the hand, throw it in your face. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got a shank in my ankle, my ankle boot. You know what I mean? 100%. Yeah. You know, let's do this. Close contact. You know, we ain't doing all these moves and stuff.
Right. And that's why I mentioned Fonseca. Fonseca. I mean, I think that's it's probably the obvious choice right now. But like, he is he's center size. With Carlos is a little bit of crazy. Sure. And I think that's the one that's going to butt in. I think that's the one that's going to like start to, and it's not 6 months. It's probably not even 18 months, but maybe.
Right. It may
maybe
be
U.S. Open next year. It could be U.S. Open next year. Yeah.
Sure. But to your point, it'll be a player like his profile. And I will tell you, and it's funny you mentioned that because I think you're exactly right. There are no players currently that offer the profile that can beat these two on their best day. There is only these two. I am waiting on the new Nadal, whoever he may be.
The wild card.
There has to be a wild card, a new lefty that is Nadal with the better serve. Because just like I didn't see Nadal coming, I don't want to leave out the Nadal of things. Both these players are right-handed.
Yeah, who is the best? I guess Ben is left-handed, but
Ben and Jack are the two lefties that could do it. But I don't know if the two of them have. But Jack is a right-hander like Nadal, so his serve's going to always be a little bit limited. I mean, true Ivanisevic type of lefty that can bring it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
And still have a backhand and still have a forehand that can be all day. No shade on Jack, who's doing great right now. Same with Ben. Ben pushed. Ben took a set off Carlos and played some good tennis. At some point, to your point, he wasn't threatened. Right. It was a good match, and he won the third, which I thought was even more important, and a long first, 10-8 in the breaker. So a 7-point breaker, which is certainly not chicken feed. I just feel like I would love for it to be Ben. Ben's going to have to really craft his profile to be that level of elite. And Ben will enjoy a nice career regardless if he does or not. It's just if he's trying to push to the upper echelons of top 4 in the world tennis, he's got to go back and retool some things if that's possible at this point in time, and maybe it will have to be on a certain surface, right, like a Wimby, where his serve can just there was an old guy in a South African guy named Kevin Curran way back in the day who used to have records at the Aces. And Kevin Curran, I want to say one tournament he had something stupid like 44, 48 aces in the tournament. So you're looking at, let's face it, Alvin, for a guy to get 10 aces in a match, 12 aces, that's a lot. 44? You know what I mean? The only person who maybe broke that record was Dr. Evo. So my point is Ben's going to have to serve bombs for 5 matches straight and to have fresh legs and be able to do the distance just to go to breakers against a guy like Carlos to be competitive. And honestly, Alvin, only on the grass does he have a chance to go deep with those guys simply because they're not seeing his serve, right? So that's where I would give him the edge over Jack Draper, even though Jack's English. I would give, because of his height, his serve, and he can just take the racket out of your hand. But unfortunately, for the same reason, I don't see him ever beating him on clay. You know what I mean? And it was an achievement to take a set on him, as loose as Carlos can be, right? So I don't know if he won that set against Jannik. I really don't.
I think you mentioned that's a nice segue into like what do we see in the next coming weeks as we transition from red clay. I feel like everyone, if you're watching this on, you won't watch it on Sunday night. It'll be Monday at some point. But just think about the red clay that you just saw for the last 6-7 weeks, and boom, now it's green. Like we're fresh cut grass courts. Yeah. As we segue into the grass court, the short grass court season, I'm now thinking of players like Jakub Mensik because he can, as you mentioned, Ben, he can rapidly get through service games. And the thing that kind of that tripped him up here on the clay is just his conditioning. He's not ready to. He's not the best mover. He's not a bad mover. He's young and he's not there yet. But on grass, maybe. And obviously the grass is slower now than it used to be, but could threaten. Maybe. It takes people a while to understand the grass, if you will.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's been I got to go back and look at his junior record and see if he's had been very proficient at the grass and had a huge result at Junior Wemby. My point, Alvin, it's going to be a player with that profile. It's going to be the Nadal with the bigger serve. Yeah. It's going to be the Alcaraz type who can bomb down the tee and hit it out wide. There's always a player that's a weird matchup. For Pete Sampras, it was a guy like Wayne Ferreira, right? For Andre, it was a guy like who always seemed to have to be able to get, besides like an older guy like a Kafelnikov and a younger guy like who always seemed to just kind of outlast him and did some things he wasn't always used to. Who took him out a few times, Agassi out a few times, and on some of these tough matches. The clay quarters always seem to roll enough balls back in play. You know what I mean? Your Costas, your Emilio Sanchez's. You know what I mean? Your obviously your Gugas, but Guga's a little younger than Andre. Who was my man that had the that was money, my man that clean one hander, little man bun on the back, won the French. Did he win twice? I know he won.
Oh, I can see him right now too. Gaston Gaudio. Yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking of some of the guys like this that were just hard matchups. For some of these guys that they're better off the ground than you thought. They're better off. They're better all court game. Didn't serve huge, but they're big but could return. They could handle Andre's pace pretty well. Now Bandon is a perfect one I'm thinking of, right? Because now Bandon was always that. If now Bandon had a serve, now Bandon would have won a slam. At that point in time, because his backhand was all day, and they won the few players. I felt like Marty Fish, or in that 2000s, early 2010s version, right? He was that guy with the good backhand return, always in the mix because of what he could do, right? So I'm just looking at that kind of player going into Wemby. I don't know if we have that player right now outside of who we talked about. I don't know if Musetti's going to get that far without having a big serve. He's
Well,
got nice game. I don't know.
that's the weird thing.
We'll see.
There is the Musetti issue, and this is kind of the issue with a lot of these guys. Like, he's not going to have to work that hard to get there. It's going to be, center up top, Alcaraz down on the bottom. You throw Jack in there. Who's ranked 3 in the world right now? Zverev. Okay, so now you look at one of them defaulter. You hope you land in the right quarter, and boom, you too can be in the semifinals of a Grand Slam, right? There's just not enough thickness there.
I think that there's enough bigger servers to go the distance to push a guy like Musetti. That's my thinking. I think the clay hurts those same players on the profile as a result because the serve doesn't mean as much. I see Pesci Pericard Giovanni going 2 rounds deeper. He got the second round in this tournament. I see Fees going deeper. He went to round of 16.
Well, if he recovers, he might be out through Wimbledon. Don't forget that Musetti beat Pesci Pericard at Wimbledon last year, which is just like
I'm gonna chalk that one up to youthfulness on on Giovanni's case. However, I only say it to say, and this is no shade on Lorenzo. It's just to say that it's clear on clay he's a hands down favorite. I could see him beating a younger 19-ish Giovanni.
Sure.
I don't know if Giovanni drops his bombs like he can. I see a player like a Shelton going deeper. I see a Mensik going deeper. I see any of the guys that have a bigger serve of note going a little deeper. It's the guys that kind of grind a little bit that to me are always suspect in the first week when the grass is still fresh and the grass is still a little slick. And the second week, ironically, it's when it gets a little slower. They got to be able to do something more than serve. And I think that's where you start getting into now you're at base camp at Mount Everest. Can you grind?
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? You've got here off your weapons, but now can you grind when that ball comes back? And it's always been Wimbledon's deal. You know what I mean? You can get a little lucky early, but you got to be good to make it past this point.
As we start to get towards the end of this, I don't really have a lot left. I'm exhausted from watching tennis today. I am emotionally exhausted. It's been a long few weeks. We're gonna get back to some normalcy here in the upcoming weeks. I want to say, first, I should have said this in the beginning. We're making some progress on the YouTube side. So shout out to all of our day ones. We've crossed the old 200 subscribers threshold, which is I feel like 6 months from now we're gonna look back and laugh about that day we were pumped about 200 subs, and but I feel like that the people have found us. We are reaching the people.
I love to hear from each of the 200. I could care less about some of the numbers. I would love to hear from some of the 200. I would love to, I feel like a lot of this is, as you often say, it's two guys at a bar talking tennis. Deep tennis, I might add, but talking tennis. And I would love to have this bar stretch 200 plus around in the bar and throw some things out there. Like our 2 champions today, it only gets better when you get tested and you get some other things thrown at you. And I would love to see, you and I have done that with each other in these handful of episodes, where afterwards, it'll be a day later, I'll be thinking about something, I'll be like, darn. And I find myself using the whole, you have to have a certain profile. And I'm like,
I got him.
But that's also what's good, because it's been proven in my mind that I didn't have anything better to counter or to displace, and therefore I got to make it my own. It fit in a way I couldn't explain. It fit in a way better than I could explain. Therefore, it's in my vernacular. So I say that to say, the 200 of you that are out there, shout out to you. Drop us a line. Tell us what you're enjoying. Tell us throw out something that you may not agree with. Love to hear that too, because that's how the iron sharpens the iron a little bit to me. And I
will shout one out for our listeners. They have been quite active in the comments section, active
Awesome.
debate amongst each other, which has been fantastic because
Okay.
tennis can be cool, and it's hard to find. You might not know people in your neighborhood who talk tennis. You might only have some of your buddies that you talk to every once in a while. But this is like a group chat where we can all exchange some thoughts, exchange some ideas. We don't know each other, but it's fantastic. I bought my U.S. Open tickets last week. I forgot to tell you about that.
Yeah, you told me.
I did tell you. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I was talking to another tennis podcaster from Grounds Pass, and we're kind of going back and forth in the comments, and it's wild. The U.S. Open is wild in that you could pay. The tickets are not cheap, right? I bought tickets for the Thursday, first Thursday day session, and then the following Friday day and night session. So I'm in Louis all day on Thursday, come back again Louis on Friday, and then Arthur Ashe at night, Friday night. Friday night on Ashe,
Nice.
lower bowl.
Yeah.
I had to sell a kidney for those tickets.
Yeah.
But it's 2 matches. Like, why am I paying double for 2 matches in worse seats than I am for 4 matches in better seats? Like, I paid it. I did it. It's a vibe. It's a vibe, right?
And it's New York Open.
It's a vibe.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd much rather go to Charleston. I'll be honest with you. I'd much rather be at Charleston.
Yeah.
But we're gonna be live in the spot. But I'd rather be at Charleston. Anyways, okay. So I think for us, this has been fun.
You're talking like the tennis consumer
Right,
again.
exactly.
I keep telling you.
Exactly.
It's. I will not make another 5-set jab, Alvin.
Oh God! Talking about a freezing cold take. Jesus! And right that match finished, I was like, "Oh man, I'm gonna hear about this again. I know I'm gonna hear about this again." God. Almost got out of here. Almost got out of here without it. Yeah. So I think for the next few weeks, so we got 3 weeks before Wimbledon starts. I think we deserve a little time off. We hear from some of our friends, and then we'll get ourselves back together and talk a little grass court tennis and talk about some other things. We do talk about other things. If you guys want to go back and listen to some of our early episodes, non-Grand Slam or ATP, WTA related, we talk about other stuff, tennis related. But right now, the tour has us.
I get bored talking about pro tennis. I hate to say it because it's so above us and it's so much. God, I want to say it in a weird but a nice way. It's so irrelevant to us in some ways too. It goes on without us, and yet we're there watching it and being pulled along. And then a tournament like this, but especially a match like this, comes in and just draws us back in and puts us all together in the same ellipse. And I just got to feel like that's what I love about pro tennis is that every once in a while a match moves you and it makes you really appreciate the game once again. And for that moment in time, we are all transfixed and moved, and you're just like, wow, I just witnessed something special. Yeah. You know what I mean? And shout out to those 2 players and obviously their teams and their camps for giving us a really good a gift today. And I'll be honest, that's really what sports can do, and I'm a huge fan of sport for that reason, and look forward to seeing the next installment. And Alvin, this has been fun. I look forward to talking more regular, everyday tennis. I look forward to getting back to talking about more of the X's and O's. At a certain level, those guys have transcended some.
Yeah, we have no business breaking down their tennis all that much.
Oh my God! I mean, I don't. It'll take me a week just to figure it out. Just to really understand where did it break down. You know what I mean? You'll have to get down slow-mo video and start looking at dissecting the court with a bunch of old school dartfish tools and split second digital frame by frame. That's the only way to really understand where a half a second was stolen or gained here and there. It was too high level for the human eye to catch up to. I mean, it was off the charts.
But
so anyway, it's been enjoyable. This term has been enjoyable, and hats off to the French for taking care of this. There was some early shade on night match this and women that. I get all that. There was some weird weather and all that, and the roof should be closed. Okay, whatever. But man, did the players of the tournament not dial up something special?
Yeah, we got a good one.
The gauntlet's been dropped. Wemby, you gotta come through strong now. You gotta come through pretty strong. And hats off for Warner, TNT, whoever. the parent company, is to have taken the risk on that. And very, very good tennis. And you know what? Shout out to John McEnroe for calling a great match.
He did. I didn't hear a ton of him, which I think is that's probably the sign of calling a great match.
He let the tennis speak for itself. He never took a side. He referenced himself when he needed to, because he is John McEnroe. At the same time, as he always does, he's always very, very humble in some things. And Alvin, I gotta say, whoever the guy, Brian Anderson, I guess the guy's name was, whatever. But John was a very good commentator.
Yeah. Got no notes for that one. I think we are due some rest. Everyone's due some rest. Bless you. Let's as I would say, drop a pin in it there. I'm still Alvin. That's still Torrey. Best of 3, French Open.